Good evening. This is the public hearing on the alternate veterans tax exemption. It is Tuesday, February 10th. I'm going to open the meeting by stating that this is a public hearing. We will allow for public comment. Mr. Brunel is going to go through the details of the exemption, and then we'll open up for public comment after that. So, take it away.
There's out there on the back there's some presentations if someone wants to follow along. I'll try to do this quick. I know the board has gone through this a couple of times, so this is the official public hearing that we must hold before we have the ability to vote on the exemption. This came into law in the end of 2013. We quickly looked at it last year and decided that we needed more information. So just kind of explain what this is for eligible veterans who have served during a period of war. The Persian Gulf conflicts, Vietnam, Korean, and World War II. Those who received an expeditionary medal from the Armed Forces, Navy, or Marine Corps. Those who received the Global War on Terrorism Expeditionary Medal, and reserve members meeting certain additional qualifications. So those are determined by the DD 214. When you submit them to your tax assessor, they'll make that determination as to whether or not veteran, a basic veteran, combat veteran, disabled veteran. So that is not done by the school district, that is done by the town assessor. The Board of Education must have a public hearing, as we're doing now, and we would need to put a resolution up by the end of February. This must be enacted by the end of February. It's got a March 1st deadline with each and every year. So if it doesn't get accepted this year, it's possible in further years that it could happen. What's being explained tonight is the default, okay? So this is the default. If you want to go higher or lower, we must have another public hearing, which we could do at the next meeting on the 24th. Okay, so just to let you know, we have the ability to go up or down on this default, but what we're presenting is the default. So in the default, the basic exemption is $12,000. I don't want to say 15% because pretty much every home here is going to be greater than the $12,000. So there would be a $12,000 for a basic exemption. A combat exemption is $8,000. A disabled exemption is $40,000. Now, if we want to go off of these defaults, that requires us another hearing. They can go lower, they can go higher, and I can give you that information. So changing these exceptions requires a second hearing. A Gold Star parent, which we're not basically discussing tonight. That is a whole separate thing. A Gold Star parent is a child, is a parent of a child who died in the line of duty. And it must be their primary resident, and that also goes with the veterans exemption. It must be your primary residence. Additional information, it's not an automatic exemption, so veterans must file with the town assessor. If those who have applied for the town and county exemption do not need to reapply for the school district. That would just be an automatic. But if you haven't applied at all, I mean, it means you have no exemption at all right now. You would have to apply through the assessor's office. Other thing too with this, and is that this is a tax shift. We do not receive money from New York State. Unlike the STAR program, we're reimbursed for that exemption. With the veterans exemption, we do not get reimbursed by Albany or any other instance. It's really just the money that is exempt by the veteran is then spread out amongst all the other properties of Rhinebeck. So giving you an example, if we turn this over, and this is 2013 information, but it really shouldn't go too much further, applying the basic exemptions, it would reduce our overall value of our town by about $6.3 million. Or if these rates, it really is a shift of about $100,000, meaning the veterans who do apply overall would amount to about $100,000 savings, which would then get, reapplied, which gets shifted to all the property owners. So I want to go one step further, and what I did was I redid all the numbers based on this year's tax information that we had doing what was real, and then what the estimate would be based on the alternate veteran default minimums. We'd of course have new tax rates. But really, it comes over to the next page, on the last page. What this does for the average homeowner, the average assessment is $325,000. Is about a $20 increase to their taxes. So if you have an average home, this would cost an additional $20 per year. And below it is I put in the savings. Now, of course, this is all estimated. If you had a basic exemption only, you'd save about $188. A combat exemption, an additional $125. And if you're a disabled veteran, at 100% disabled, it would be an additional $626 on this year's information. So
This is based on the average home?
yeah, that's on the average home, and what I did is I included on the back at a $2,300, $400, and $500, so you get an idea about what that cost would be. But it's about $6 for every $100,000 of assessment. So, first we'd like it to open up to the board for any questions you may have.
Okay.
I just have one quick question. I'm thrilled that you're all here. Thank you for coming out tonight. Have we gotten additional letters, emails, anything from the community stating their position one way or the other?
I did late this afternoon receive word from John Worth. He has not sent it in, but he will be sending in, of course, supporting the veterans exemption.
Thank you.
But that's the only thing I have received. Mary Ann, have you received anything as the board clerk in regards to this? No.
Okay.
We haven't then this time around had any communication from anybody who's opposed to this?
No. No, I have not received any word, and neither has Joe received any word of anybody opposing it. Yes.
Let me just point out that I think Diane made a really good point last time when we were proposing to have this prior to the many postponements, and that is that this wasn't something that the community had asked us for. This was something that we were able to do. And here we have put it out there, and now we are seeing a community here. So I think that is a really good point, and I think there's been a response to it.
Okay. Anyone else with questions before I open it up to public comment? Okay. So what we'll do now is we'll open up the hearing for public comment. I'm just going to read from the policy on public comment. I'll recognize whoever would like to speak, and you'll have a total of 5 minutes if you would like to speak to us. We'll try to get through everyone who wants to speak, and then if you would like to speak again, you can have another opportunity to speak. We would like you to approach the microphone so that, for the benefit of the people who are watching on Panda or on YouTube later on, so that they can hear you. And we'd like you to give your name and address if you wish to speak. So, would anyone like to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Burnell, Mr. Fleischhauer, members of the board, for hosting this hearing. My name is Heath Tortorella. I live at 4 Crowell Avenue. I started in this district as a kindergartner, and I graduated in 1992. I currently serve as the mayor of the Village of Rhinebeck, and I'm a member of the American Legion at VFW post right here in the Village of Rhinebeck. We've got a few other guys here with us. I'm a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom, and approaching 15 years of service in the Army Reserve. For full disclosure, if this proposal were to pass, I will be eligible for the combat zone exemption. I'm not here to ask for a handout, and it's unlikely that you'll hear from a large group of veterans. And I guess maybe this is a large group for board meetings. I know it's large for our board meetings. But I don't think anyone's here to ask for a break personally. And I think I speak for most of the veterans that are here and elsewhere that I'm proud of my service, and I consider it a great privilege as opposed to a necessary burden. It was an honor to represent my country and this community, and for that I feel that I'm owed nothing. But I ask you to consider the concept of service to country and its relation to the local community. When our young men and women leave the comfort of their home to serve in the military and preserve the way of life that we enjoy, it is Rhinebeck that they're fighting for. Their devotion to America is rooted in the sense of community that they learned here, and when these veterans return home, it is often the case that they continue their service to the community as volunteer firefighters, Little League coaches, and mentors to the next generation. I urge this board to approve the veterans tax exemption, as many other surrounding school districts have done. As you've stated, it will have a relatively small financial impact and is the most appropriate way for this community to say thank you to the veterans who selflessly served our community and quietly returned home to contribute greatly to this community. I feel it would be an embarrassment to the district and community if this proposal is not approved. And with that, I'm headed to our village board meeting, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Yes.
Hi, I'm Piper Woods. I live at 22 Winston Drive in Rhinebeck. And my business is in the village of Rhinebeck at 6423 Montgomery Street. I really just have questions. And I'm hoping that the board can answer those questions for me tonight. I'm not quite clear, is it just on primary residences that this would apply, or is would this also apply to people who own commercial property, or, that's one question.
Well, it's only on residential property, that I know.
Okay.
I do know it's residential only, not on commercial property.
Okay, that's good to know. And then my other question is, what is the cost to the town for like the management of this? Because I assume it will be an extra, time, some sort of time that they will need to apply to manage this in some manner. And I'm wondering what that cost will be, because I assume that will then impact the town's taxes.
Well, I don't...
And that's my whole...
Yeah, I don't know if there will be much of an impact to the town assessor's office. They're already having to do this for town and county purposes, so it isn't any extra burden, I would think. Now, will there be more people who may come out to sign up for these benefits who currently don't have them? Yeah, I'm sure once people realize that there's this exemption available through the Rhinebeck Central School District, that might perk some ears up and say, oh, geez, I should go down and see if I qualify. So there will be some of that type of thing, but like I say, if you already have a town and county veterans exemption, it's there. It doesn't, it just is going to slide over. So the 300 or so residents in this community who have that exemption, they don't have to reapply for that. It would just be for new people who would be looking to, who hadn't applied ever before.
Okay, so they won't have to really so much manage who isn't. It will just be really something that's very cut and dry.
It should be.
Okay.
That's my understanding. It should be very cut and dry.
Okay. Hey.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to address you folks. I'm Dennis McGuire. I used to sit on the school board here. I was town supervisor, and I'm a graduate of the Rhinebeck Central High School. Went to the Rhinecliff School, for those who not too many are going for it, but we had four grades and 2 rooms down there. So, and then came 1964, where I graduated, and 1965 October, I was in sunny Vietnam by choice. The McGuire family came from Ireland. My great uncles all were Irish immigrants and served honorably in the service of our country. God let them come home, all of them. I had my opportunity and I volunteered to go to Vietnam. And that burden again was on my mother, that I was going to come home. And fortunately, like my fellow veterans here, we made it. But a lot of them didn't. And as Mr. Tortorella said, we are not here with our hands out. We would do it all over again. Listen to my friends over here say, I'd do it again. And we would do it again. For what we have here, for what we have, with you people coming and serving your community, we served our country. It's a little something that is voted on tonight, is appreciation for what we went through. And a lot of them, like I said, all of these people that are sitting here with you have lost at least somebody in their career in the service. And they'll remember that forever. And that person you lost, their face is vivid of the 20-year-old, of the 18-year-old. It's vivid. We get old. We look in the mirror, we look at ourselves, and we say, oh man, 65, that's 50 years ago in October I was in Nam. But the face of your fellow veteran that did not come home with us, it's there. So I would ask you to please, on behalf of my fellow veterans and those that are not here, to please pass this through. Thank you.
Sir?
Al Newton on 21 Platt Avenue. I too served in the Air Force from 66 through 1970 and in Vietnam. And we have a saying in the military, no man left behind. But when I came back to this country, I felt the country had left me behind. I don't know if everyone is aware of coming back from Vietnam, there were soldiers and military people who were spat upon and condemned. And for a long time, I didn't mention my service. I was proud of what I did, and I thought it was right and it was honorable. But I just kept quiet. And then I was very, very encouraged when I saw a lot of thank yous, and this country started realizing the sacrifice that military people make, giving up 4 years of their lives, 2 years of their lives, that can't be captured again. It's not the money. It's putting some meat on the thank you that I hear. It's putting something behind it and saying, yes, we really are grateful for your service. And I don't see the cost as being exorbitant for other people to absorb. It's almost like people go and get a Starbucks coffee, $10, $20. So I do urge the board to pass that. Because I feel it would be, as I said, putting meat on the thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi folks, my name is Wayne Reichenberg. I live at 14 South Orleans Drive. I am a life member of the American Legion and a life member of the VFW here in Rhinebeck. I am a veteran of the United States Army. I also happen to be the chairman of the American Legion sponsored Memorial Day Parade for the last 25 years. I just wanted to give you guys a brief synopsis of what the veterans organizations do in our community. I think it's important for you to understand that. Our Memorial Day Parade this year, we had about 750 participants. And in those participants, we had a variety of organizations within our community, including the Rhinebeck High School Band, including the Rhinebeck Crew Team, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, the Rhinebeck Little League, the Girls Softball League, the Rhinebeck Soccer Club, the Rhinebeck Karate Club, the Northern Dutchess Hospital, the Lansman's Kill Stocking Club. And I'm very, as a chairman of the Memorial Day Parade, I'm very, very cognizant, and I tell all of the organizations how important it is to be cognizant of the fact that that day is to honor our veterans. But it's also a community event. And the American Legion understands that. And that's why we strive to bring our community involved in our parade. It's a wonderful parade. People come from all over the place. It's a really wonderful day. And after the parade, we have refreshments, not only for the participants, but for the public in total. And we have a wonderful ceremony at the cemetery in Rhinebeck. But the Rhinebeck American Legion also does the Halloween parade. And we invite all of the community. It's a wonderful day for all of our children. And the children come and they have a wonderful day. And we give prizes and we give refreshments. But there's other things that the American Legion does. We also sponsor Boys State for several of our wonderful children in the school. And our guidance counselors give us these names of these children. And we sponsor them, and we send them to Morris, State University of Morrisville. And they go there every year. And these children come out of there with a wonderful sense of understanding about politics and about patriotism. We also do a program at Christmas time. And this year we gave 110 food baskets to people in our community that can't get out. We go to the nursing homes and we go to people that can't get out. We bring them a food basket personally. We knock on their door and we give them to them. I guess the point is, our veterans aren't sitting home looking for a handout. They're involved in our community. They serve their country and they're serving our community. And they deserve this. Thanks.
I guess I'm Ray Joyce. I grew up in Hyde Park a bit longer ago than most of these fellows here back here. But I brought up in an atmosphere that the Depression, all through the Depression, then into World War II, and there was a love for this country back when we had all the hard times. That was just automatic. When I heard the news, or the whole family had to be that Sunday together, Pearl Harbor was bombed. We just looked at each other and we knew right away who was going to join up and fight. And because our family, we had a love of this country, like unbelievable. And most people did back then. We had the heart depression, all that. But there was something in us that you automatically, if your country is hurt in any way, you're going to do something about it or help. From the time I was a kid, during the war effort, I collected my mother's grease from that was needed for the war effort. For some reason, they had a need for the grease, they had a need for papers, and we take a wagon full of papers down to Western Printing. You grew up that way. You saved your dimes for stamps, war stamps, then you build up until you could get a war bond. And so when I got about the age in the 20s, that's when Korea happened. And it was automatic. I grew up on a farm. And my parents had an apartment above my grandparents. And so it was automatic. I went down and I joined the Navy. So I remember when we were walking down towards the barn, I said to my father, I said, I joined the Navy. And he said, and he just patted me on the back. And a buddy of mine went with me, and we both joined together. And that, I got more out of that than any college could have ever taught me. And I don't, I appreciate what you've done for us, what you're doing now, but I would do it today. I hear the news tonight, I want to go right out. But everybody here has that feeling, and it's just, we appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, would anyone else like to speak?
Hi, I'm Amy McCauley. We live at 719 Slate Quarry Road in Rhinebeck. My husband has served 28 years in the U.S. Army, and just as an Army spouse, I would just like to say thank you so much for even just bringing this forward for consideration. We really appreciate it.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. So I would just like to clarify that we will not be taking action on the exemption tonight. We will probably be taking action at our next meeting, which is 2 weeks from tonight on the 24th. We will have some discussion about it during our regular meeting this evening, depending on what the discussion leads to. If we should decide that we want to go with an amount other than the default exemption, we would have to have another public hearing, which would also be on that the 24th. But we will be having discussion on it later on this evening. I would like to thank all of our veterans who came out this evening. Thank you for your service. And I'm hopeful that we can pass the exemption. So, do any of the other board members have a comment? Go ahead, Digger.
I just want to say how moving it is to hear the stories of people with whom we live in this community, and the stories you've shared with us tonight are truly precious in terms of our aspirations towards service to our community. And we're really, really grateful for your presence. Thank you.
Lisa.
I share Deirdre's comments, but I'd like to add that it's very helpful to us, not just to hear from members of the community on a particular issue, but to see members of the community at our board meetings so that you can hear and see what we do. And I would encourage all of you who are able to this evening to stay for the regular meeting, at least up until the point where we talk about our school budget for the upcoming school year. That's a matter of great community interest and concern, and there's no substitute for the community to see and hear our discussions, and during public comments, be able to add your comments on that. So if you can stay, I encourage you to do so. Thank you.
Diane?
Well, we asked for people to come out, and I'm so happy that you did. We really appreciate hearing from you, and I especially appreciate the reminder of all that you do for our students here, including the Veterans Day that we have when you come out. It was nice to hear that, and thank you again for coming out and sharing your stories with us.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing, and we'll take a short break while we have some students that are coming in to make a presentation at our regular meeting. So I invite you to stay for that if you like. Mr. McGuire?
Address Mrs. Rosenthal, after serving on the school board for 5 years, maybe excused.
You certainly may. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Instead of having them come out.
Yeah.
All right, good evening, everyone.
I'm like, whoa, yeah, different look.
I'm just moral support tonight.
Good evening, everyone. This is the regular meeting of the Rhinebeck Central School District Board of Education. It is Tuesday, February 10th. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the January 13th, 2015 regular meeting?
So moved.
By Lisa,
Second?
second by Laura. Any discussion?
I just have one amendment I had sent Marianne earlier on page 5 of the meeting minutes for the curriculum committee. Third paragraph on page 5 says Next Gen science standards have been approved at the state level and will have a major impact on K-2 science education. It's really K-12. But that's it.
Anything else? Okay, all those in favor of the corrected? Okay, that's unanimous, that motion passes. We have an opportunity for public comment. Is there any public who wishes to make a comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the Taking a Stand project. Mrs. Cake.
Hi. Thank you so much for having us here this evening. And thank you to Mr. Kemenser for supporting all that we do, and for the Arts and Ed program for supporting the work that we've been doing. I currently have 2 projects going on with the Arts and Ed support. This Taking a Stand project and the Hudson Valley Shakespeare Festival actors coming in when we do a Shakespeare unit. Both of those are fantastic projects and get the students doing a lot of critical thinking. So thank you for the opportunity to speak. So this Taking a Stand project is in its 2nd year. And it started with the Engage New York module on To Kill a Mockingbird, which is around the Common Core standards and was provided by the state. The performance task for that module was not very rigorous compared to what we normally do with research projects. So Diane Lindenberger, the librarian, and I decided to take it upon ourselves to expand the project a little bit. The opportunities with reading To Kill a Mockingbird and looking at the theme of taking a stand really provided an opportunity to look into civil rights and social justice in U.S. history and how it's impacted students even today. So it started with that. The idea is that they research moments in civil rights history where people took a stand for what they believed in, and then would turn that, or initially the plan was to have them turn that into like a photo montage. And then I was granted the opportunity to work with Pat Sexton through another colleague, and we sat down and started brainstorming, and that's where working with the artists came in, and the real graphic design elements and critical thinking really came in. So now, basically, they read To Kill a Mockingbird. We discuss Atticus's taking a stand for Tom Robinson, how it connected to civil rights in the 1930s in Alabama. And then the students conduct research on a topic of their choice, also connected to civil rights. Anything ranging from the Stonewall riots, which students will present on today, to the Equal Rights Amendment, to the Native American Indian Rights Bill, all sorts of topics, including this year current topics around the Ferguson case and the Hands Up, Don't Shoot cases and the protests that went on in New York City. So we even had topics that were very current. And then the artists, Mimi Graminsky and Pat Sexton and Mr. Musty come in, and Martha Tobias come in, and they talk to the students about elements of graphic design, show them samples of work of social justice in art that's out in the public, And then students have the opportunity from there to decide, are they going to take a stand in their piece? Are they going to simply honor the civil rights action that happened at the moment? And they work to create their art piece using all of those elements of graphic design, which require a lot of higher order thinking skills and gets them thinking about research in a different way as opposed to just writing the research paper. Once they're completed with the project, and actually this year throughout the process, they also write an artist statement which explains what they've done in their research, how their research inspired their art piece, and what they've gained from creating the project. And so I'll let the section speak a little bit more into that.
I'm going to have Peter do that because he has worked extensively on the ELA piece with the artist statements.
Thanks very much. So for us, this is a real opportunity to connect the ELA classroom with visual literacy and again the other cross-disciplinary emphases that are in the Common Core standards. We get the students to engage in critical thinking, not just through their research, but also then involving the design process. How do you use visual design in order to communicate your piece effectively and creatively? What's your point of view? And then being able to articulate it both visually and through language. Having the artists in the classroom working with the students gives them access directly to both expertise in that area, but also to resources and to ways of thinking about materials that they might not. So it enhances both the critical design component as well as allowing them more creative latitude in how they express themselves through these projects. We also find that helping them develop their artist statements that Ms. Kate referred to then completes the circle. So they begin with To Kill a Mockingbird, they work through this visual representation of taking a stand on some issue, and then they need to go back and reflect on that and how that process actually informed their own ideas and how their ideas informed the piece that they made. And so that they're then writing about that at the end as well, with that additional richness that comes from that entire process. At the end, they then also have to present their pieces to their classmates. So they're engaged not only in reading and writing, but in listening and in speaking as well, which are all the skills that you want to see in the ELA classroom. Anything else that you'd like me to add about the process for us?
No, I think the whole thing was fantastic, and students should definitely have an opportunity to present. So I have 3 students from last year's group. This is the first walkthrough of the project, because the current students' projects are actually on display right now in the auditorium lobby, which you can come see tomorrow night at our gallery opening. So we have Dylan Potts and Lauren Platt and Grace Johnson, who are current 9th graders, and each of them is going to come up and talk to you a little bit about what they created and read you their artist statement from last year's piece. So Dylan, if you would come up and I'll show you the project.
So hello, my name is Dylan Potts. The topic I did was the Stonewall Riots in 1969. Stonewall was a gay bar in New York and was constantly raided for anything of the unusual. The people of New York didn't like the gay community very much, and the gay community was hated immensely. The gay community was tired of it and stood up. After having a huge riot lasting a day, injuring and killing multiple people, this was the wake-up call for gay pride, and gay pride was now in action. The effect was huge, making the gay community get more respect from the others. The gay pride movement started to happen, and it all went there, changing America. I chose this project, the hanging montage, because I wanted to hang something up. I wanted to float in the air like a flag showing pride. I used bright colors to show the gay community and dark colors to show the opposing force, which was the police. My piece represents pride and courage, showing that even though the gay community was hated on immensely, I want people to understand how this event was very important to the gay community. Out of my creation, I want people to understand what happened and why it made a better America.
And you have the bricks there representing the Stonewall Inn, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dylan has to leave us to go to lacrosse practice.
Thank you.
Lauren Platt did the glass ceiling project, sculpture.
So for the glass ceiling on the bottom, I tried to paint the glass ceiling and represent the pieces falling down as included by the region. My name is Lauren Platt. My topic is women's rights. Personally, I take great interest in how women are advancing in the workforce, and when the project Taking a Stand started, I didn't hesitate to use the glass ceiling as my topic.
The glass ceiling is a political term used to describe the unbreakable barrier that keeps women from rising to higher positions regardless of academic or social achievements. Statistically speaking, women are still not treated as peers, but inferiors, and over the years, the numbers barely show an incline. In 2013, a research project headed by an Institute for Women's Policy Research discovered that female full-time workers make 78 cents for every dollar a man earns. That's an astounding 22% wage gap. Unsurprisingly, one person is probably thinking they just don't have the skill, work ethic, or qualifications for a higher-paying job. A recent report from the USA Department of Education found the current graduating class of women in 2013 earned 62% of all associate's degrees, 57% of all bachelor's degrees, 60% of all master's degrees, and 52% of all doctorate degrees. To sum it up, for every 100 men, 140 women graduate college with some kind of degree. Clearly, more women have the proper educational skills to go above and beyond the workforce. But why is it there is a larger percentage of men in the workforce than women? It's not the lack of skills or knowledge. Metaphorically speaking, it's the glass ceiling. This data is what I base my Taking a Stand project on. Have you ever questioned why in television, in books, or in everyday life, women are secretaries while men are the directors and CEOs of companies? Have you ever cross-examined why there have been 44 presidents of the U.S. but not one was a woman? These unembellished thoughts are discarded too quickly in today's society. Many men and women go about their lives in a state of mirage, believing the U.S. has solved gender equality in its utopian world. Unfortunately, it's time to face the facts and accept there are still political and social issues regarding gender equality that have not been perfected or addressed. My inspiration comes from Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton came the closest to winning the presidential election as a woman for the Democratic Party in 2008. She was previously a senator and United States Secretary of State. Hillary Clinton is a great role model for women in the workforce because she stands for feminism and willpower. In addition, I have always taken interest in women's accomplishments in our nation. To me, this is a very serious topic that should be emphasized more on in media and political debates. What exactly has this project provided for me? This project has given not only me, but all the students a voice. As a growing person, accepting each other's opinions and learning from each other is a major step in growth and maturity level. I was able to learn about current issues and issues corrected in the past. I was able to communicate with my peers about their personal opinions, and I got to know them better. This Taking a Stand project helped me strengthen as a person and a student, and have the chance to present my voice to peers and administrators.
Hello, my name is Grace Johnson. I decided as my Taking a Stand project to research the Stonewall riots. To execute this project, I chose to create a video to display my work. I chose to go down to the original location of the riots, the inn in Greenwich Village, with my older brother Zach, who came to shoot the footage for the video. As preparations for this day, I emailed with my brother to discuss what was needed to be done before we began. I wrote my script. When emailing my brother, he described to me the format that was needed for the video. Once I finished my writing, I emailed my script to my brother, and he revised it. When we took the train down, I practiced and memorized my script and thought about how I wanted to deliver my lines to the camera. Once we finished what we had when we were down in the city, we went up to my brother's house in Schenectady to revise the work, edit, and do some final voiceover touches. I then emailed my project to Mrs. Cake and to see what she thought and to give her advice as to any changes. I want people to realize what the gay community did that got them to where they are now, and I feel the video portrays that in a good way. After I finished the entire project, I discovered that the gay community worked hard to get where they are now, and that we should take our own meaning from it. Thank you.
This video project for you to watch from last year. Maybe.
Grace, I don't think I got the audio.
Yeah, take it off mute.
I've got me. Yeah.
Down the bottom.
Right there.
All right, hold on. What's this? There we go. Sorry, Grace. Audio's not coming through. I don't know why. Is there something I'm missing here?
Want to go in there maybe? The one right at the
I have no idea. I've never used a smart board.
Mine doesn't look like this up in my classroom, I apologize.
I don't know where the sound should be coming from. Oh, it's up there.
Yeah, the speakers are.
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
That might be.
Oh,
Oh, there they are. Now they're gonna be crazy
yeah,
loud.
lit.
All right, let's give this round two, sorry.
You probably need to X out of the,
Yeah. Try again. I should the audio as a map, right? Still not right.
There should be audio.
I don't know. I'm sorry, Grace.
It's a silent film.
Your own perception.
Oh, and all their lines are memorized, it's fantastic.
Oh.
Yeah, this was really a great project.
Oh, yeah, no idea.
Can we do it from that? From this computer? I don't know that she has speakers hooked up to this. I don't think there are.
So cool.
Yeah, I wonder if the audio is going through.
Yeah, it's going somewhere.
I recognize it somewhere, I'm not sure where. A piece of this that was interesting was last year, just before we really knew what to do with all of the iMovie software that we have. So Grace did a lot of this work with her brother at his house. And so this year for this project, we actually took the multimedia piece out because we were kind of worried about juggling some kids using the software and some kids not using the software. So we will be using the iMovie software later on in the year when we get to Shakespeare. They're going to be doing some video work for that unit. But Grace took on a lot of this work on her own independently as part of this project. In particular, I apologize for the audio problem. It worked fine on the computer upstairs. I think to test it down here.
You're very compelling, even without your voice.
It's just kind of, you know.
Well, actually, this scene was extremely hard for me to do because the way it was set up, my brother was in front of me and he was looking down and I just had it all memorized. And every time I would blink and look at him. So I had to do it and that's why I look so serious. And that's my brother.
Wow.
I apologize.
Well, I did see your project last year, and it was awesome.
Well, thank you very much for having us, and I hope that any of you are in town tomorrow night. You can check out the work that they've done. All the projects are displayed in the auditorium lobby, and we'll be here from 6:30 to 8:30, or 8 o'clock, 6:30 to 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Can I just say, we spent a lot of time hearing about, kind of at a more abstract level, the curricular changes and all the work of curriculum development that's going on with our faculty here in the district, and to get a real sort of representation of this in this way, to see what kind of invention that students and commitment that students bring to this work, and also seeing how in Rhinebeck you're going so far beyond, right, this kind of scaffolding that's offered through these modules of engaged art to create something that's so distinctive and speaks to the values this school stands for. It's really impressive. So we're very grateful to you for coming and sharing it with us.
Yes, we are. Not sure who had their hand up first.
I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight after a long day to come here and share this with us. We often hear from people that don't have kids in one school or another when they come here every once in a while and they hear what's going on, how exciting it is for them. So I appreciate the time for you to come out and show us. This is such an exciting project for students to be able to show their talents at different levels and create whatever they're interested in. It's exciting. Thank you so much.
I also just wanted to thank you all for supporting the arts and learning through the arts, because we've been doing this in the Rhinebeck schools for about 10 years now. And you'll see on the one page that we had there of our long-running projects, and we've got new ones developing every time, because every single project is unique to the group of people who are involved, the teachers, the students, the artists. So all of the work that we do is very special and very specialized to what the challenge is for the teacher and what the engagement for the students' needs are. And so it's really wonderful to have a supportive board and a terrific Arts and Ed committee that come on with us. And upcoming is the Books Journey at Chancellor Livingston, which will be in its 9th year this year, and also the History Walking Tour of Rhinebeck, which has been just so much fun to do. That's done flip-flop with the Water Day. So it's a really great action-packed 2 days for the students that they really enjoy it. So thank you very much from ENTA and everybody who works with us, and have a lovely meeting.
Thank you. I did just want to say, you guys are amazing. Thank you. Enta, you're fabulous as always. But Dee, really, I want to commend you for looking at, what had been handed to you off a shelf and saying it's just not okay. It's not good enough for our kids, and we deserve better. And taking the time to work with Diane and really make a program and a project that is meaningful not only for your kids, but brings a tremendous piece of literature and teaches them the bigger picture. It's great. Thank you.
Diane really provides a wonderful opportunity, because she can scaffold really well 6 to 12, the research skills that they really need to be ready for college.
Yep.
So any opportunity that we have to get in here, get them working hands-on with the material is fantastic. So here's a couple of the other.
I just want to show you quickly a couple of the other projects. This was the 9 students that started integration and finished high school.
So they sit in at the Woolworths lunch counter.
And this opens, and to show the whole montage. It all started with a cup of coffee, and it opens to a montage of the images that the student researched.
So this would have been considered a collage. The quilt piece would have been a quilt. The sculpture obviously was an option.
The collage piece on body awareness and body image.
Gloria Steinem was the inspiration for that piece. And this one was also women's rights and equality. And this one was Ruby Bridges and the integration of schools, Brown versus Board of Education.
The little girl surrounded by the soldiers going into the school. And I love what the student wrote about this, that I chose a collage because it was able to fit the whole idea with layers and textures to show emotion and obstacles. That was by far the best choice for me to express this topic. I used different colored papers, fabrics, and some crayon colors to create my collage. I used blues and blacks to express gloom in the moment, and fabric to bring to life the people. Crayons to show a little detail of a long path to school every day. The colors told the story of Ruby. So just pulling together that kind of imagery to visually and so poignantly express what that student was feeling is, in many ways, just reading the artist statements tomorrow night is the moment, in so many ways, to see everything that went into it, because we sometimes look at things so quickly, but reading these really lets you know their long path to getting there, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will make sure to send everybody a full copy of the video tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Take that in, come home.
Thank you so much for the.
You're welcome. Good night.
All right, so we'll move on to our interscholastic athletics report. Mr. Boucher.
It's a tough act to follow.
It is. Really, there's no controversial hot button topic, I don't think, this year, which is kind of nice. I mean, because we've kind of been through what was in the past a controversial hot button topic. Our beds number, starting with our NISVA update, our beds number for this year is 304, and that moves us to a B school next year for the five classification sports, which are baseball, softball, basketball, and soccer. Somehow I forgot soccer on my presentation there. I don't know how I did that. We do remain a C school in the sports of cross-country, field hockey, lacrosse, and volleyball. Those sports have modified numbers. The New York State Public High School Athletic Association, with certain sports, they don't have 5 classifications. They'll have 4 classifications or 3 classifications, and they do try to keep the numbers equal across the state in terms of the number of schools participating at each class. The big change coming from the NISPA, it's actually coming from state ed. NISPA let us know at our January meeting that it came down on December 31st, and there'd been a lot of talk of this, the changing to the selective classification process. Selective classification is when middle school students want to play up onto a JV or varsity team. That process is now going to be called athletic placement, the athletic placement process, the APP process. So in January, they told us that this came down December 31st, and NISPA was caught off guard because they weren't fully on board with the changes, but state ed pushed it down, and with that, now, we were just informed in February that there's going to be some more changes, so don't jump just yet, but it will be in effect for fall. So from you, what we're going to need is, we have a board policy that approves selective classification, so we're just going to need to make some changes to that, namely changing the name of it. That'll happen over the summer. All right, so you're aware when it comes down. Profit sharing. Last year, NISPA started profit sharing with Time Warner Cable, and what they're doing now is they're trying to enter into more corporate agreements to keep the dues low. NISPA has managed to keep a 0 increase as a result of this. Section 9 has recently started to enter into profit sharing. We're getting more corporate sponsorships. If you go to the Section 9 website, you'll begin to see banners being placed on that. That is all being done in an effort to keep dues low to the member schools. Section dues are actually going down for second or third year in a row. So that's good for us. But you will see more corporate sponsorship at athletic contests as a result. In terms of other changes that have been going on, last year we mentioned that we were going to a regional office of interscholastic athletics. That has taken effect this year, and as you can see, nobody's been impacted by it, except it's made our life a little bit easier. Everything is being housed out of the Orange Ulster BOCES, and everything is being scheduled out of there, so it's actually been a little bit easier for us. And it's been a cost savings to us as well, which is a good thing. Other changes that have happened in the section is the section council added superintendent's seats, and we have our superintendent as the Dutchess County representative. So Joe has been doing a great job advocating for the Dutchess County schools. It means one more meeting a month just about for Joe. A little more work. Especially with him not being here, right? In terms of our sports season, we are right in the middle of it at this point. Just came from a basketball game. Unfortunately, it didn't end up the way we wanted it to, but that's all right. The fall season was an extremely successful season, as many of you know. In terms of league championships, our boys and girls soccer teams both won the division championships. They both lost in the conference championships. Boys and girls soccer went on to win the sectional championships. That was the first section championship for our girls soccer team. In girls swimming, Kate Bergen won 2 sectional championships in the 200 IM and the 500 free. Moving from the sectional into the state level competition, our girls did a great job in the regional semifinals and gave Haldane a bit of a scare. Haldane went on to win the state title. So, maybe next year I think we're making a push. Boys finally made it over the hurdle. They won, as you know, the regional championship on a very cold night down on Long Island. And then the following weekend, which was also equally as cold, they went on to win the New York State championship. And they did a nice job representing Rhinebeck. The community support there was great. The snow just made it even better. Girls swimming, we had 2 individuals go to the state championship meet, Kate Bergen and Lillian Oyen-Usted. Lillian finished 15th in the state in the 100 back. Kate Bergen finished 13th in the 200 IM and 8th in the 500 free. So we had a very nice showing at the state meet as well. All of our varsity teams this fall, 65 of our athletes, and there were, I believe, if I remember correctly, 107. 65 of them are recognized as an all-MHL academic player. That means they had a 90 or above average during the fall season. That's the biggest number we've had since I've been doing this. We're usually in the 50s, so the number went up, which is a great thing. New York State Scholar athlete teams, girls cross country, field hockey, golf, boys and girls soccer, girls swimming and volleyball. To achieve that award, a team has to have a cumulative average of 90 or above. And each team has a different number of players, so we can basically play people based upon their averages, and that's what we do. And that we had nearly all of our teams recognized. We will be recognizing our winter teams now that the grades are finally in and done. If you could stop the snow, it'd be a whole lot easier. All of these teams, all of these athletes will be recognized in June at our Varsity Sport Recognition Night. This year it is on June 10th at 7. It's a Wednesday. It's in the auditorium. And this is your formal invitation to attend. In terms of my goals for the year with our athletic program, one of the big things last year was when we found out that Spackenkill didn't want us any longer to merge for football. So, we lost an opportunity we had about 9 kids going to Spackenkill. We lost an opportunity for 9 of our kids to play football. And I'd been working since last January to find another partner for us to merge with. And it's not an easy thing because of the merged number takes both bed numbers, there's a percentage, but schools move classifications. This happened relatively quickly. We had been talking with neighboring schools, ones that would make sense, and it came down in about a 2-week period in the middle of January. Pine Plains was incredibly open to us joining them. They wanted to know how many kids we were going to bring, so we did what I consider to be a very active and accurate count of our student athletes that would play football, namely varsity. And at this point, I have 10 kids committed to play varsity football. So that number helped Pine Plains out a lot. So Pine Plains said, let's do it. And then, before I said okay, I said I need to know budget-wise where we're at. In the past, the school districts that we merged with have charged us per student. And when I said that to Pine Plains, he's like, I never even thought of that. And I said, oh, okay. So their athletic director went to the superintendent, and when he called me back, he said he almost fell out of his chair when they learned that they could actually make money off of us coming over there. And Pine Plains was not interested in doing that at all. They actually have said that they would take us at almost a zero cost. They just want us to hire a football coach, somebody who will be our football coach but will be on their staff. So that's something that we're going to have to work out. That's a considerable savings for us, which will be great. And looking at our numbers, at this point I have 10 committed varsity athletes. Now, they will only have, Pine Plains runs a modified A and a varsity team. So 7, 8, and 9 will play modified A, and then varsity 10, 11, and 12. Looking at our modified items, and I haven't gone through and verified with each kid at this point because there were 23 of them. So when I looked at that number and I thought about what we had been charged at previous districts, that would have been a budget buster for us at this point. So, but Pine Plains is excited. Their board has taken action. As you know, we were scheduled to take action on that at our last meeting, but again, with the snow, enough of the snow. So, you know, I know that's on your agenda for later, and I would strongly recommend that we do approve that merger. Sportsmanship. Sportsmanship seems to be, you know, something that we see a lot in the news. It really came to my forefront when, after we played what I thought was an excellent soccer game down at the MHL Championships, our fans were great. But a spat and kill parent chased the officials off the field. And, you know, that's something that we as a community, all of our communities, need to address. You know, we have to understand that interscholastic athletics is just that, it's interscholastic athletics, right? At the end of the day, right, we're all going home, and this isn't life or death. So sportsmanship, working really hard with our teams on sportsmanship, and now we have to get our community to help with that. So I'm trying to come up with some programs so we can emphasize sportsmanship. I think there's nothing better than that. Increased participation for varsity boys and girls swimming. That's something that I've always wanted to, that I've been looking at doing. Our varsity girls swim team had about 7 kids on it this year. Varsity boys swim, as you know, we didn't field that team last year, but this year we got it up to 13. I think having 2 in-house coaches that we have now, and hopefully we're going to keep them, that will help bring that number up. Add time to our athletic trainer. Sam is doing a great job for us. I know that Ed and I have put it into the budget, and hopefully we're going to be able to add time. With the return to play protocol, if we could bring Sam in a little bit earlier, it would be a great help to our athletes. Sam's also working with our athletes on strength and conditioning. She's also happens to be a certified personal trainer in addition to an athletic trainer. So she's a great asset to us, and I'd like to keep her around. Finally, one of my final goals is to add financial support to those sports that are being funded by outside groups. That would be crew, lacrosse, and swimming. We've been able to add money this year, last year, and this year, and I think we're pretty close to being able to almost fund them. So I know it's a tough budget year, but you know, if we can keep our athletes going without having to worry about the fundraising part of it, I think it's a great thing for us. I included in here for you participation numbers. Last spring, this fall, and this winter. Winter is the sport season where we offer the fewest number of opportunities. I am constantly working on trying to find other opportunities for us. The big one would be wrestling, and I'm trying to find a school that would be interested in merging. Just so happens that Pine Plains is looking to maybe start a wrestling team, so that may be something where we could get some more opportunities for our student athletes. The last page that you have, just in case you weren't familiar, those are all the sports that we offer. Okay. I do know that, you know, looking at our enrollment numbers, When we get to the elementary school, those numbers are dropping. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. The fall season is clearly overtaxed in terms of the number of sports. And that is something that the state is always looking at. So maybe we can get somebody to wake up and realize we need to change the sports seasons that some of the sports are being played in. Do you have any questions of me? I know that was quick.
Diane?
I have a couple questions.
Okay. You told me 18.
No. You answered a few of them in your presentation. So the corporate sponsorship, would that just be happening at like sectional games, or are we going to start seeing stuff like at our fields here? Like, when you talk about that?
We will not see it at our fields.
Okay.
Unless our fields are being used for league or section championships.
Okay.
It just so happens that I am the co-chair of softball for sectionals. So for the Section 9 softball. So we are going to be hosting sectional championships here. We're also going to be hosting regional championships here. So you will see some signage there. That being said, we're working on trying to make that a win-win situation for us as well, so that we're able to not necessarily make money, but not necessarily see our fields be abused without being fixed.
Makes sense. Let's see, my second question. When you're talking about the sportsmanship, it had come up through the policy committee that we don't have a policy on for our parents or our crowds. Is that what you're talking about? Like something trying to make sure?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, something along those lines. I don't know if it needs to be policy. It wouldn't hurt. I don't believe. But just a statement that would be, straight across the board. I mean, New York State gives us guidance, and we read that whenever we have a public address system to read it. It's the same statement that is read to all the athletes by the officials prior to a game. That being said, coaches and athletes, they're held to the sportsmanship policy, and if they're removed from a game because of a sportsmanship issue, there are repercussions. They have to sit the following games. While we don't necessarily have anything in writing that says that, we could, I guess, it's not a right for someone to be here.
Okay. I think I just have one other one.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No.
No.
Well, I know that because I'm on the travel teams and Olympic development program, they make the parents sign a code of conduct so that coaches can, you're out of here. I mean, is that something that we could do, something where, we actually sign it and say, we will abide by these rules if you don't?
We do have in our athlete handbook and contract, the parents and the athlete signs. But within that, there isn't, to the best of my knowledge, and I have to read it one more time, there isn't language that says we're going to remove you for...
Yeah.
In instances where we've had parents removed from contests, and unfortunately we had that happen twice this fall. Dr. Davenport and myself did meet with that parent, two separate parents, meet with them and remind them what interscholastic athletics is about, and let them know that their behavior was unacceptable and that it would not be tolerated going forward. And they were receptive to that.
Deirdre?
Well, can I just speak to that? I just wanted to say, kind of as a personal note of appreciation, how powerful the modeling is that you and the coaches and, in fact, the athletes do for us as spectators, and how appreciated it is. And sometimes in the heat of the moment, people get carried away, and it's really important, the kind of educational aspect of what you model for us. So I just want to thank you and everyone who sort of helps us.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Go ahead, finish your questions. No.
So you touched a little bit about how our numbers are going down, and, next year in the middle school, for instance, there'll be 30 less kids. So when we look at fall sports, and I'm wondering if, you talked about mergers for maybe creating new sports. What about some of the existing sports that we have? Field hockey's numbers are down. Mergers for those sports, is that possible? I see the participation numbers, we may not even have that many girls in the whole grade at that point.
Field hockey was an interesting one this year. So in the past 2 years, the number for a JV team wasn't there. And field hockey is a sport straight across our section that is seeing that happen. Soccer moving to the fall has had a definite impact on field hockey. So that being said, the coaches agreed to go 7v7. So at least you're keeping kids playing. This year, and in looking at our numbers, I believe this is why it happened. So our 7th grade female enrollment is significantly smaller, so we just didn't have the number of kids coming out on the modified level, but we did have it for the JV. So therefore we ran JV and varsity. There were 3-4 kids that missed out on an opportunity to play. The problem with field hockey is a sport that has 3 classifications. So as you merge, we're a small school, and if we were to merge with another small school, we're going to bump them up, or we're going to bump us up in terms of classification. What we could look to do is to merge only on like a modified level, just to keep kids going. But that would have to be something that would make sense financially for both schools. It is something that, as a league, we've been talking about this. Something needs to happen, and one of the things being thrown about is what's happening with like football, where you're looking at a modified A, so you're going to play 7, 8, and 9, and you're going to play varsity 10, 11, 12. You're just going to get rid of the whole JV level for a sport, and that may be something as we look going forward. With a lot of our school enrollments dropping, we may be doing that, especially in the fall, just because there are so many opportunities.
So my question is about football. Congratulations on the 23 kids from Modified. That's pretty impressive. If it sticks, right? Can you talk a little bit more about the idea of the coach, and that it would be our coach that we hire, but a Pine Plains staff member? How's that going to work, and what are we talking about in terms of salary and benefits? Okay.
Tom
Transportation.
and I briefly discussed that. Transportation, we will continue to transport. As we transported to FDR, we transported to Spackenkill. I know that when we were transporting to FDR, it was part of a normal run, so we weren't being billed. But then with Spackenkill, we did get billed. So that's something that we've had going on. In terms of the coach, so this is my 18th or 19th year at Rhinebeck. When I was first hired, we did have a wrestling merger with Red Hook, and from what I did, I was news, and I was really worried about just surviving everything else. Part of the merger was we hired a coach here, and they worked with the Red Hook. So there is precedent there somehow. I don't know exactly all the inner workings. It's going to take a little research, it's going to take some work on Tom's part, and we'll have to figure it out. There's some negotiations that'll have to be done, and
there's no position in the teacher contract for football coach, so it's something that would have to be negotiated. I do need to talk to my counterpart over there, whether or not there's insurance involved too. It's our employee over there, so there's a lot of things that need to be worked out. They can be worked out. It's just a matter of finding out which way it has to work. Insurance might drive it. If he has a different insurance carrier than myself, our insurance company may say, no, we're not going to cover our guy over there. So, there's all sorts of things, but it can be worked out. It wouldn't be too bad. As long as it doesn't get to 2 buses. Because it sounds like you got about 35 on the bus right about now.
Yeah.
Yeah? And they aren't the little boys either.
No.
So,
Yeah.
something to think about. And the other thing too is if we have that many kids, I think the coach needs to go on that bus.
I think that's, yes, yeah, that is, yeah. That is the understanding.
Yeah, okay, good. Coach/bus monitor.
Right. Referee.
Any other questions? Okay, I just would ask you to address the modified A. Is there a willingness on the part of other schools in the section to field modified A teams? Because I know that's been a kind of an issue the last couple of seasons, especially I know in field hockey it has.
Yes and no. There are, within field hockey, there are a few programs that are very strong. Not only competitive-wise, but very strong in terms of their numbers. And for them, it would be a loss of opportunity for some of their kids. But there are 4, 5, 6 of us that are hanging on. And we see this as a way to keep programs going and build them back up as opposed to run the risk of seeing those numbers go down. So it's going to be hard for us to get consensus at our table to get everybody to do that. But we're going to try to come up with something that is going to work for that program. It's happening with football now more, and maybe that'll be a model that others will follow. So 2 years ago, a bunch of schools decided to go modified A. And when we went to Smack and Kill, that's what our kids were doing. It's keeping football going at the smaller schools. So maybe we'll see that happen.
Okay.
I would like to see New York State balance the sports seasons. But that's a pretty big...
It's hard to play outdoor sports right now.
It's really hard to play outdoor sports right now. It's going to be hard to play outdoor sports in March, right? The way it looks. But, yeah.
Diane?
Sorry. Was there any other changes besides the name for the selective classification, or is it just the name?
There are some changes, and I started to look at them, and then when they said they were going to make more changes, I said, I'm not going to look at them. From the initial read, the performance standards are changing. We're going to now, so at this point, each sport has a different performance standard. And if you're going to be a varsity athlete, if you want to be a varsity athlete, you have to meet this standard. If you want to be a JV athlete, you meet this standard. Now it's going to be based upon the presidential fitness test and you achieving 85% of that standard for your age level. So we're a little bit miffed by that because it's not sport specific anymore. So I don't know if that's one of the things that they're thinking about changing or not. That's something that they've been stuck with that 85 on the presidential for the last 3 years. The other is waivers. Waivers will only be granted by the school's chief medical officer. That's a change. But they may change all of that.
You are going to hold to
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you, Steve.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Steve.
much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
You too. Thanks.
All right, next on our agenda is a discussion of Board of Education Policy 4730, homework. I know there was a discussion in Policy Committee about the homework policy, and I think the Policy Committee asked the other board members if they had any input as to homework.
I have some questions, because I remember last time, Lisa, you said that you weren't sure that this policy actually mirrored Rhinebeck's practice. Is that sort of where this comes from?
That's correct, and, in discussions in the policy committee, Joe, who it's a shame can't be here for this discussion this evening, was telling us that practices don't seem to be in lockstep, and that you see differences at each of the schools, you did see grade differences, and you see subject matter differences. And so, if we're going to have a policy, and there's no requirement that we have a policy, but if we're going to have one, it should be something that everybody's prepared to adhere to. And it also should be something that we as a board buy into, because this is the board policy, it's not a particular school's policy or even the district's policy.
Well, it does seem to me that if we're going to have a policy, I'm not sure that having a board policy is necessarily appropriate, because a teacher's going to assign homework based on the needs of the classroom and what they're getting through in a given day. So for us to say you have to have homework or don't ever give homework, or it seems that it shouldn't rest with us necessarily, because we're not in the classroom and we don't know what the kids need on a day-to-day basis. But
Diane?
So I'm also on the policy committee, and when I looked at this is different than most of the policies. It's not a requirement. This is more of a statement of what the district feels, what the board feels about homework, and this policy was adopted in 2002. So obviously it's been a while. And I looked at this, when I read it, I looked at this and thought, if I was a new hire to our district and I'm reading through the policies, what would I think that the district is telling me about homework? And when I read that, with that thinking in that way, it was kind of saying that homework should be given frequently and often. And, I'm not sure if that's the direction that we want to go. I mean, it clearly says that it, should be deemed necessary by the teacher. I mean, I would agree that's important. As we talked about in curriculum, this, maybe someday we're looking at being more uniform in our homework. But right now, that's something that we're certainly leaving up to the teachers. I think in curriculum, it was also talked about that what's important is that it's necessary homework, that it's not busy work, that it's relevant and important. So for me, the issue that I have is probably with the wording that's talking about frequent and daily. That's what I think. But I think we were looking for input, because this isn't, three people's opinion. Like, if the board feels this is fine, the majority feels it's fine the way it is, then we should leave it. The board feels we don't need a homework policy, we shouldn't have one. Or if we need to make tweaks, then, the policy committee can go back and look at that. So we're just trying to gauge, what the thought is from everybody now, because it's been since 2002 since this was written.
I just want to go back to that conversation that took place in the curriculum committee. It was a pretty, I think, extensive conversation, and it was prompted by a request that came from a family about, is there a uniform policy around homework? And in fact, what sort of emerged through our conversation was the sense that it is actually specific to different teachers, that the autonomy of teachers in this regard was something that seems to be actually the case, right? That it isn't something that's dictated at this point, nor did the committee ultimately believe that it should be. So any language that would suggest to a family member or a parent reading the policy manual that if their student is not receiving daily homework or something of that nature, it seems that we should perhaps change the wording to reflect our actual sort of range of practices, if that's what we want to do.
My own experience was that on any given day, I probably had 5 homework policies and 6 sub-policies inside the 5 policies. As I indicated, I think I made a comment, a general comment that I'm allowed to online, was that this is a less is more situation. The less we can say that constrains the individual teacher, and the less message that we can send out to the community. If an individual family is interested in what a teacher's homework policy is, as is our other goal for the year, let them talk to the teacher. There'll be a homework policy, and they'll explain why that is a particular homework policy that day or that week. I can live with this policy, especially because it has the phrase, "if deemed necessary by the teacher." Works for me.
Sorry, who had their hand up first?
I mean, I know that opinions on homework are all over the map, and not just amongst teachers and not just amongst parents. I mean, there are pretty powerful and well-credentialed educators who have diametrically opposed opinions about the efficacy and the usefulness of having homework or giving homework or doing homework. And, you know, there was this suggestion made of trying to gauge the opinion or the position of the administration and/or the teachers on what homework, what the district's position on homework ought to be. But I think that, I guess I'm resisting that because I think that is likely to just reflect the larger community's view of, you know, everybody having a different position on homework. I'm very receptive to Rick's view on this, that, you know, you really need to leave the decision-making with the people who are going to be making that decision, and unless you have reason to think that they're not making good decisions, we, who are not, except for Rick, education professionals, should, oh, and Deirdre, I'm so sorry, Deirdre. Rick and Deirdre, accepted from this. I am certainly, let me put it differently, I am certainly not an education professional, and
This side of the table.
Yes. So, I think we should probably not be putting out a position about that. I hear what you're saying, Rick, about, you know, having the sort of the weaselly language in here about, you know, if deemed necessary by the teacher. I guess that gets you around it, but I kind of don't like that. I'd rather be forthright about it, you know, and if we think that the teachers are the ones with whom this decision-making should rest, then we probably are better off not having a homework policy. You know, a board homework policy, and let the teachers decide that.
I agree. It's not for us to decide. Really.
Okay. Anything else on that?
So then, in
Leave it or get rid of
Are
it?
you saying abolish the homework policy?
I think so. I think so. I mean, I guess there's a question procedurally on what would need to happen to do that. I mean, we are required to have 2 readings of a new or an amended policy, but is there a procedure for abolishing an existing policy?
I'll call Margot and find out.
Yeah, that would be the next step, I guess. And then we could discuss it in policy committee when the answer comes up.
Deirdre?
So would the policy committee come back to us with a motion to vote on? Is that?
If
Presumably, we have to vote on all the other ones, right?
Yeah, I would imagine you would just, to remove it.
Yeah, I would think is just, you know,
But the, you know, our lawyers should.
yeah, I don't think it's like a first reading, second reading. I think you just have a resolution that says to abolish, you know, policy XYZ.
Okay.
Raise of hands, you know, but we'll find out.
Well, I'll just speak now as someone who's not sure that I would actually support the idea of absolutely abolishing a policy. In a sense, having a policy, there's a placeholder for people who have a concern, right, that they can go to look at. Now, whether or not it tells them what they want to hear, that's a different question, but if we suddenly remove altogether the policy, it might send some kind of message which may not be our intention. So I would simply just sort of consider that as well.
I agree. I don't think that would be in favor of removing the policy. I mean, I think just hearing what's around the table, everybody's in favor of letting teachers make the decision about homework. So I think that's clear. I think there are parts of this that still apply to what everybody thinks. I think what everyone is kind of saying is that we don't want to say how much homework or when to assign it. And so I would say maybe the policy committee should maybe look at altering the policy the way it is or changing the wording, but just a rewrite it. Rewrite, maybe.
Because having a policy would affirm our support of teachers in engaging in homework as they deem. Well, you're not saying deem necessary, but we would support the teacher's role in determining.
And I think that in the Chancellor Handbook, I think that there is a guideline about homework. So I don't know if we remove this policy, like what does that mean for that guy? I agree with you. It might say like, well, now the board doesn't care about homework at all, or
I think there's
add more homework, less homework. I could kind of.
There might be some positive stance on something we may not in fact intending to send that message.
Okay.
So it sounds like we're going to be discussing it further.
All right, we are going to not have principals' reports this evening. It'll be at our next meeting, and we're going to move on to the 2015-16 budget development update.
So, in front of you tonight, you have your budget books, on which we have quite a bit up, not completely, but it has a lot of information in there, and we'll go through. Now, hopefully, you remember to bring your first draft that was.
I thought that.
No, we didn't have them.
Oh, that's right, they're in there, I forgot, you gave them back to me. They're in your book.
The second draft, but we gave back the books, remember?
It should be under first draft. I forgot, you gave them back to us.
He gave them, you gave us first drafts in the packet this week.
Section empty.
With a second.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Two meetings ago.
127.
2 meetings ago. That was it. Okay, that was it.
That's it.
That's good.
I knew I brought it on.
It was the rollover you gave back to me. That was the rollover, not the first draft.
Okay.
All right. So, where are my notes? All right. So, if in your previous board packet, and that's a new one, you probably didn't give you.
Do you have another copy by any chance, Tom?
Just give that away.
All right, never mind.
Let me see.
The rollovers in here.
Well, I have the first draft here.
That's the
That's the
revenue
revenue.
side.
Oh, okay. So
I
you don't
found a
have this
little
one.
error in that.
Okay.
So,
Oh, you did, there's an error in this one? In the one that came in the packet?
yeah, the one that came in the
there's a new one
packet, there was
here?
one error.
There's a new one in the packet.
Yes.
Why don't you just
He
take
put
us
some
through
in our
the, whatever.
So I'm going to take you through the first draft, just real quickly, and then I'll go over a second draft, which was in here that takes into consideration not a whole brand-new thing of this. It's just a single page in here with the retirements and how that affected the whole bottom line. So, the first draft of this budget included 2.5 teaching positions, just so that you know. In this budget, there is a request from the elementary building for a elementary teacher, which would bring 4 at every single grade level. Currently, one grade level only has 3. Last year, we had the a high number of kindergarten kids come in, and they switched a 5th grade teacher down to kindergarten, making only 3 sections in 5th grade. The elementary principals requested an elementary teacher to make it 4 at each level. So that's in the first draft. Also, Mr. Zip, our Director of Special Education, has requested 1.5 English as a second language teacher. There's been new changes in the in how how English second language instruction is to be given. I don't know the exact specifics, but I think Richard did talk about it about a month ago at the meeting I was sick. The way that it has to be delivered now, it's got to be, I mean, the ages have to be close to each other. So what happens is if you have basically 13 grades, you can't group them up and say, okay, K through 3, let's go meet with you. It can only be like K1 and then 2, 3 and then 4, 5. So it can't be done in more of a, the age range has to be a lot closer is what my indication is. And he's figured we need about 1.5. We currently have 1.
So we're adding a 0.5.
1.5.
So we're going to have a 2.5 altogether.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So that's what's been constructed in this budget. 2 positions were taken out of this budget. A health aide, okay, is no longer needed. These 2 students that this person was hired for are graduating this year, unless something along that line changes. As far as we know, they're on their way to graduation, and that will be great. And also, Mr. Zip is let us know that he is, 1 teacher aide is not required for next year. So, one of the kids who was 4, I think, has been integrated back into the classroom and is no longer needed at this time. But just starting on page 1, I'm not going to spend too much time, but I've increased travel and conference for the Board of Education.